Welcome to my haunted bus. I have a story. This mirror is part of an unsolved murder mystery. Rumor has it, if you look deeply into the mirror and stare at it, you'll see the face of Marlene Padfield, a 17-year-old girl from Iowa who lost her life. And this was the last place she was seen. And if you look closely, you can see the face of Marlene reaching out and asking for help to find the person that killed her. Ah! The bus may be somewhat haunted because I do have a little ghost in here. But let me tell you a story that goes along with this mirror. Let's dive a little deeper into the story I just mentioned. Some of it is true. But what part is true, you may ask? This mirror that you have seen is from the R Ballroom in Marion, Iowa. It's the hometown of Marlene, also known as Mickey. And written on the back, R Ballroom, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, 1977. You might ask, what does all this mean? Well, let me explain. Let me tell you another part of the story. Stay with us as we move on. And as we continue our story of Marlene Mickey Padfield, age 17, in 1959 in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Part of the story I told was true. You can always find it on the internet to find the real story. The story is of Marlene Padfield, as I mentioned, age 17, a very smart young girl who wanted to be an aspiring actress. And she acted more like 19 and looked like 19. So the story is she went to the city from Marion, Iowa to Cedar Rapids, Iowa to work at a TV shop where she had a job answering the telephone. After work, her boyfriend, and the owner went to the owner's house and had some dinner. And then she wanted to go back to town, but she asked the owner to drop her boyfriend off first because she was to meet with a young man who was in the drama department at the local university, and he wanted to put her in a play. And her boyfriend was jealous because he does not like her to be a wannabe actress. So she met this young man at the Cozy Inn, a local hangout, bar, cafe, tavern. And according to his story, he dropped her off in front of the Armar Ballroom between 12:30 and 12:45 and went home. The next day, no one saw Marlene. And after the man dropped her off, close to 1 o'clock, 12:45, no one in the ballroom, which was closing at 1, saw the two of them together. So she never made it back to her house on the bus, the last bus of the evening. And her mother thought the next morning that maybe she stayed with a girlfriend. in the city. She paid no attention until the owner of the TV shop called and said Marlene did not show up for work. Then the investigation started. It was, and still is, an unsolved murder mystery of Iowa. She disappeared. Nobody saw her until a few weeks later, when some young boys found some clothing along a dirt road a few miles from town. Investigation continued. It was very cold. It was February, and the boys found their clothing in like March. And in April, a farmer working down another section of the road saw his dogs carrying some human bones, and one of them was a hand. Yes, it belonged to Marlene. Her body was found several months, weeks later, too far gone to make any determination of the cause of death. Could have been exposure, could have been something else, but she was several miles from town. So it still continues now as an unsolved mystery. The story is still being told, so the thought of Marlene has not perished. And who knows, maybe this mirror was in the ladies' restroom at the Armour Ballroom, and maybe Marlene peered into it, and maybe a small portion of the image is still embedded in the glass somewhere. We don't know, and we may never know. So that's the story. And like I said, it is on the internet. So feel free to search Unsolved Mysteries of Iowa, Marlene Padfield, Armour Ballroom, Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Let me tell you a little bit about the Armour Ballroom. A little reference to the Armour Ballroom you saw in the video. It was in Cedar Rapids, Marion, Lisbon, Iowa area. Cedar Rapids and Marion, I believe, are really close, so it's listed kind of in both places. And Lisbon is where Marlene was from, and she was 18 miles away. But yeah, the ballroom was used in late 1940s. 1948 is when it opened inside an old airplane hangar, and it was decorated with a lot of seats and had tier levels and hundreds of feet of neon light. Probably a very fancy place at that time. And it was rather large. I think it could seat up to 3,000 or hold up to 3,000 people, seat up to like 1,500. So a very large building. And so this was in the, like I said, the Cedar Rapids area. And the reason how I came along to get this mirror that's in the bus that goes with the story is the building was, opened up in 1948 and it operated until 1976. So a very long run, and it held bands. It saw bands like Duke Ellington and Louis Armstrong and Les Goodman, and Lawrence Welk played there in the 50s with 3,500 people showing up. So a very big traveling venue, in those times for the traveling bands. And this is one of 10 that this man owned of the music scene at that time. So it was a pretty fancy place, and as one of the band members or band leaders said, for a fifth of whiskey, you can have a really good time. So I could, that would be probably true. But yeah, so it was open till '76, and then it was sold. It was, tried to be uh, preserved as a kind of historical area, but no, it was sold, and then it was in 1977, of March of 1977, they started auctioning off interior parts to their patrons. And so this mirror that I have is actually from the Armoire Ballroom in 1977 when they auctioned off some of the interior. So it lines up with the story and what's on the internet of when it was open and when it was closed and the dates and the times. But I don't know if this mirror was in a ladies' restroom. Was it part of the Marion, you know, trilogy or the Marion story of her disappearance? But who knows? It's probably with 1,500 people. It probably had several restrooms. But yeah, this mirror was picked up by a friend of mine in the local Goodwill here in Arkansas a few years ago, and they couldn't take it with them because they didn't want it. The thing is heavy. It weighs about 10 pounds. It is solid, and so I mounted it inside the bus. So that's how my mirror from Cedar Rapids, Marion, Iowa, wound up in a little home on wheels in Arkansas with history behind it of an unsolved murder mystery from Iowa. So from the 1950s, 1959, the year I was born. So it kind of, little things just kind of mixed together. So we're going to end the video and say thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy everything and happy Halloween.